One of the key decisions that will be facing businesses in this country and indeed around the world is the new solvent technologies and what to invest in, what to go for. TSA Laundry Cleaning today, we make no recommendations, but what we do like to provide is a platform for those companies and individuals to portray the benefits of their own particular systems to allow people to make an informed choice. So continuing the international theme, it's my pleasure to welcome all the way from Canada, Mr. Tim Maxwell.
Is that Canadian music? I don't recognize that theme. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Murray. And I was thinking back during Ken's presentation when he spoke specifically about confidence. I saw a slide that said confident in what we do. And I'm a second generation dry cleaner. And I remember back 20 years ago operating our family business in Toronto, Canada. And I was approached by the Canadian government, the Ministry of the Environment, to represent the dry cleaning industry on the reduction of PERC in the dry cleaning sector. I started thinking about our 5 dry cleaning machines and the direction the government was going regarding their stance on perchloroethylene. I didn't feel very confident. Jump forward 5 years, a friend of mine, an associate, was one of the founders of Greenearth Cleaning. He talked about a new solvent option that was becoming available. This is 1999. And he said, perhaps you should look into it a little bit. That's what I'm here to talk about today. As I thought about my options back in 1999 and I looked at all the solvents that were available, and there were a lot on the market at the time, CO2, there were glycol ether combinations, there were hydrocarbon products, there were a variety of other pure dries and a variety of other products. I thought, what was going to be important to me as I looked at the future of my business? What was going to give me confidence that going forward, I had made the right decision regarding my business? So I met the principals of Greenearth Cleaning. Procter & Gamble and General Electric are founding members of Greenearth Cleaning. I talked to them about what they considered to be the important things that I as a dry cleaner needed to be looking at as I made my decision. And they basically came back with 5 points that I thought were important to me as I looked at where the dry cleaning industry needed to go. Number 1, the constituent group of dry cleaners. We had to have a product that was familiar to what we were doing already, very similar processing to what we were used to as we were now. It wasn't going to have unreasonable capital costs or labor or operating costs. Had to be in line with the margins that we in dry cleaning are used to today. Number 2, it had to have an appeal to environmental regulators. I saw early on through my experience with Environment Canada, regulators weren't going to get less stringent, they were possibly going to get more stringent as they went forward and looked at the dry cleaning industry and traditional solvents we've used. Number 3, I looked at landlords and property managers, those that often decide where a dry cleaner can or cannot locate, and the liability associated with having a dry cleaner on the premises. Number 4, I looked at the manufacturing of garments, the people who make the clothing. Anything that had to be cleaned in any of the alternatives had to be able to perform well for the manufacturers of the garments so that anything could be cleaned that came in over the counter. And number 5, I looked at the consumer. What was going to be attractive to the consumer as they got dry cleaning services? So the chairman of Greenearth Cleaning operated over 400 plants in the United States, had a number of locations where there was contamination from perchloroethylene. He had one location in Wichita, Kansas. It was a $4 million cleanup associated with the removal of the PERC and the litigation as it had spread to other properties around. That became a driving force. So we're dry cleaners. Greenearth is dry cleaners. We represent about 1,700 affiliates now around the world, but primarily we're dry cleaners. Jim Barry, Ron Benjamin, and Jim Douglas, the founders of Greenearth Cleaning, are dry cleaners associated with a couple of other companies. From a physical characteristic standpoint, Nothing works better than the product itself. Greenearth kind of looks, feels, little silky mineral oil feel, but it looks and smells like water effectively. It has no odor to it, clear. It's lighter than water, 0.95 specific gravity, therefore like any product, all the alternatives pretty well are lighter than water, therefore opposite of perchloroethylene. Where it gets its uniqueness as far as a cleaning agent is from its surface tension. You see at the bottom, 17.4 dynes. That's about half the surface tension of perc. So the ability to penetrate into the fabric twice as quickly, work into the fiber and allow the detergents and the surfactants to hold onto the soil and remove the soil, take it to the filters, take it to the distillation unit, is the key to the cleaning process. It's not an aggressive solvent. It's far less aggressive than perchloroethylene. And the reason it can clean is because of the low surface tension. Nobody's going to tell you that perc isn't a great degreasing agent. It's a fantastic degreasing agent. The baggage associated with perc goes outside of the cleaning process, generally speaking, and I'm not here to address that. We've got a gentleman who's going to do that fine. This is what got us excited at Greenearth Cleaning. The environmental fate of silicones. So we use silicones every day. It's in the underarm deodorants, the hair shampoos, the conditioners, and about 5,000 other products that we use every day. As we shower, some of those products go down the drain. About 99% of what's made goes down the drain. As it goes down the drain, it goes to a wastewater treatment plant. The settling pools in a wastewater treatment plant, again, it's lighter than water, rises to the surface, volatilizes off, and 8 to 10 days can only break down into SiO2 or sand with trace amounts of CO2 and water. It can't turn into anything else. From an environmental standpoint, that's about as benign as it can get. This slide is 14 years old from General Electric. This is the US regulatory status, but all I can tell you is in 14 years, nothing has changed as far as the way this product is regulated in the United States. Specifically, the US is exempted from VOC regulation based on the way it performs as it degrades in the atmosphere. It doesn't contribute to smog. It can't deplete the ozone layer. As a matter of fact, they listed as in their SNAP program, Significant New Alternatives Program, as a replacement for ozone depleting chemicals. The rest of the regulatory status there applies mainly to the United States. But I think the key thing here is when Greenearth came out in 1999, a lot of people took a look and said, hey, the regulatory agencies are getting more and more stringent. This is a relatively new product. It's going to face some uphill battles. Ultimately, we'll see how it handles itself. None of that regulatory status has changed over the course of the last 14 years. So much so, and I won't go into all the detail as far as the regulatory advocacy that we perform for the silicones industry for the dry cleaning sector, but California is banning perchloroethylene. 2023, I can't use perc anymore in California. As a matter of fact, as my machine becomes 15 years old, I have to decommission the machine and put in another machine not using perchloroethylene. By 2023, nobody will be using perc in California. California Air Resources Board, arguably is probably the most aggressive environmental agency in the world, has made 3 comments about the Greenearth silicone product used in the dry cleaning sector. Number 1, they see no reason to regulate its use in dry cleaning. Number 2, it's a viable replacement for perchloroethylene. And number 3, the citizens living in and working in and living around dry cleaning centers using the Greenearth silicone process there's no health issues associated with the safe use of the product around it. So from that standpoint, that's about as aggressive as it gets in the dry cleaning industry from a regulatory standpoint. Canada and the EU, here in the UK Environment Ministry in 2009 did an in-depth study on silicones and came to the conclusion that it's not entering the environment in any way that was of hazard to humans. Same with Canada. But they did say one thing. It's so ubiquitous. It's used by so many different applications in so many different industries. They had a concern for whether or not it was bioaccumulative and persistent in the environment. 2 viable concerns regarding any product. Canada went back, instituted a board of review, and in 2012, the results of that board of review were issued. It's an 83-page report. I won't read the whole thing. I'm sure you're pretty happy about that. But I'll read one line in the executive summary. Taking into account the intrinsic properties of siloxane D5 and all of the available scientific information, the board concluded that siloxane D5 does not pose a danger to the environment. That's a large statement from any regulatory agency regarding any product, one that's used in many down-the-drain type of applications, but certainly from the dry cleaning standpoint, where we're in a closed-loop system and we've always maintained that the amount entering in the environment is tiny, it was a large impetus for a lot of change that went on in 2012 and beyond. As a matter of fact, the largest property manager in the United States is Kimco. They're a publicly traded company with 1,500 some properties, plazas, commercial spaces, malls. They came out with it in their blog on April the 24th of 2012, and they said, we love our dry cleaning tenants. We love the fact that the consumer comes into our centers twice a week, drop off the dry cleaning, pick it up again. They visit the other tenants in our centers. However, if you're using PERC and you're in a Kimco center, at the end of your lease, the PERC machine comes out and you've got 4 choices. First choice, Greenearth. Second choice, liquid carbon dioxide cleaning. There isn't a manufacturer of a CO2 machine that I'm familiar with anywhere in the world. 100% wet cleaning is an option for you. Or dry up the shop, turn it into a receiving unit only, and no operating on the premises at all. As they looked at the liability associated with hydrocarbons, perchloroethylene, or any other solvent on the premises, those are the only options that they felt comfortable with moving forward. So from a regulatory standpoint, landlord standpoint, it seems like we're giving the confidence back to those sectors, those touch points in our business that are important. From a dry cleaning standpoint, back in 2002, we went to the International Fabric Care Institute. We put in a dry cleaning machine, a Greenearth machine right next to a PERC machine, and we said, have at it. And for the next 14 months, they did a detailed analysis of the cleaning process in the Greenearth system and the PERC process and compared the two. That information is all public. It's on our website and in a variety of other venues. But suffice to say, a very detailed report regarding issues surrounding stain removal, issues surrounding stability of color, issues surrounding the shrinkage and the form of garments, a 12-page report that basically, I won't read the whole thing as well, but based on our overall evaluations, IFI's findings are that Greenearth cleaning is a credible, viable alternative to PERC for the dry cleaning industry, and while different in some respects, is comparable to a PERC dry cleaning process. A lot's changed in the last 10 years since that report was written, over 10 years since that report was written. I don't know if it's important here, but in the United States, there's a lot of buzz around increasing the temperature of various solvent options, such as hydrocarbons and Greenearth. We went to the DLI, the Dry Cleaners and Launderers Institute again, and we said, because there's a variety of different products that go into the Greenearth process, there's detergents and additives from almost every chemical company, we'd like to do performance testing of how their individual detergents perform in the Greenearth system. And as you can see, the results were overwhelmingly positive. Although there would be challenges associated with certain additives as far as heating the solvent. And the points about moisture control and the ability for moisture-soluble, water-soluble dyes being affected by silicone are more increased if there's temperature to the solvent added. The machines have come a long way in the last 12, 15 years. On the left, you see a machine that was designed for Solvon K4. We have Greenearth affiliates using that piece of equipment, and it's a beautiful, complex piece of equipment. You've got a number of features, such as fans in order to remove odor and cause a deodorization cycle in the machine. You've got double expansion valves. You've got inverters, multiple inverters to slow down and speed up the airflow through the machine. You've got areas where you're controlling the steam pressure based on stabilization of the solvent. You've got areas where things are added in order to stabilize the solvent in distillation. So all in all, you've got a wonderfully complex and technically proficient machine made for multi-solvents. It's made for hydrocarbons, but primarily for K4. On the right is a machine made for Greenearth. It can be simple. It can be very simple. It doesn't require distillation. Again, the way Greenearth solubilizes soil, it's not aggressive like PERC. Therefore, it doesn't solubilize the soil into itself. It's a carrier and carries that soil to the filter mediums through the detergents and surfactants. So we can have a far less complex machine. The machine on the left also uses the heat from the previous loads drying to cool down the Freon in the refrigeration system in order to heat the solvent for the next load. Very innovative. Capital, cost-wise, is much less expensive than a machine that's designed as a multi-solvent machine. We see that as the future of where our affiliates are going, are having specific machines that are designed to work with their product. Operating cost comparison, I went to my friends in Bologna, Italy at the FMB group, Union, Real Star, and Firmatic, and I asked them, what are the operating costs and what are the energy inputs between a PERC system utilizing distillation, constant double bath distillation versus the Greenearth cleaning system? These are the numbers straight from them. 70% reduction in steam, 40% reduction in electricity, and about 65% total savings in water. Right now, of our 1,700 plus machines in operation around the world, about 20% are operating without distillation in a format similar to that in order to lower the overall costs associated with the process. Greenearth is a member of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and as members of an industry that are cleaning clothing and providing a service to the consumer, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition represents the manufacturers of footwear and clothing for about 70% of the garments made around the world. As a member of that organization, it's been eye-opening as far as what the manufacturers of the garments see as the aftercare needs for the garments that they produce. The number of dry cleanings that they anticipate their fashion will undertake over the course of the life, 1 on average. They recommend, as the least intrusive way to clean clothing, home laundry. We joined. We asked a couple of questions on how they got those numbers. I don't know if Peter Winnekes from CNET is in the audience. Peter, you've got some data supporting the fact that professional dry cleaning certainly represents a far lower energy usage model than the laundry system at home. And we've turned the ears of the manufacturer regarding where they feel the dry cleaning industry is from an environmental stewardship standpoint and a sustainability standpoint. It's a critical group to be associated with. I can't tell you how much the manufacturers view us sometimes as a bigger problem than some of the other issues they face. But something strange has been happening over the course of the last 10 years within the garment industry as far as Greenearth. We've been getting reach outs from garment technologists. They're the people who are charged with utilizing and creating the finding and sourcing the fabrics that are made for their designers to create garments that the consumer wants to wear. And we've been getting these little nudges that, although the rest of the industry, when there's a problem, will produce a variety of different warnings to dry cleaners regarding that manufacturer's problem, when they test them and try them in Greenearth, it's not the same issue. They don't have the same problem. And a lot of that can be associated with the professionalism of our industry, and I'll leave it at that. But over the course of the last 12 to 15 years, our relationships with the manufacturers of garments has increased based on the fact that our ability to keep clothes brighter in the Greenearth system, the lack of ability to damage certain trims and other characteristics, vinyl, sequins, beads, things that the manufacturer puts on the garments because of consumer preference and the consumer wants them, is greatly diminished. So much so that we become part of the manufacturer's role in a number of different factors, and one of them is the problem garment industry. And I want to point out a poly-cotton elastane combination here. Greenearth isn't perfect. So if you had asked me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, is there a product line, anything that's manufactured for fabrics that isn't an issue, I would have said we don't have any of the problems. What you see here, that dark line running through polycotton, is a spandex or elastane fiber. The way it's dyed is problematic, and when it's cleaned in perk, you can see that same line, it's completely stripped of its color. In Greenearth, it bleeds. In perk, it becomes completely stripped of the color, all of the black is being removed. In Greenearth, hydrocarbons, less aggressive solvents, it bleeds. If there's a contrasting color attached to that garment, you can have dye bleed. You can have that color transfer. So rather than point back to the manufacturers and say, you've got a problem, we're just going to point our consumer towards you, we joined them. We joined the American Association of Textile Colorists and Chemists. We presented the dry cleaners case that, how do you prevent that? It isn't an issue associated with professional garment care, it's the way that the actual dyes are adhered to spandex fabrics and elastane fabrics. They put us in touch with, and we joined the American Standards in Testing and Methodologies, ASTM. We're now a member of ASTM. They've asked us to perform testing for them on certain garments in order to establish a standard, in order to be able to step forward progressively with the manufacturers as well as the dry cleaning industry hand in hand. So this is some folks at Johnson's Cleaners, that's Clive Sessions and Neil Smith, working on an Arcadia garment that was sent in. You can see it's heavily embellished. Rather than the requirement to take that garment apart, they came up with specific programs that allowed it to be cleaned in the machine and provide that vote of confidence to Arcadia and other manufacturers. And I think Arcadia has 6 million labels that went in 2012 recommending be greener when you dry clean and recommending go to the Greenearth website as far as finding an option that's better for you. But it's about those relationships, and it's the relationships the entire industry needs to forge with the manufacturers. I was going to touch on care labeling a little bit. I know Adam Mansell is going to be speaking later on, so I won't hit on it too much. But our concern regarding care labeling certainly is that alternative solvents aren't represented. I don't think the average dry cleaner knows very well what the P or F designation means. Certainly in America they don't. The FTC in America has opened up care labeling discussions. We're at the table with them as well. We'd like to see reasonable and proactive steps made to have the consumer less concerned about dry cleaning. I realize I'm packing a lot in 14 years within about a 20-minute period, so I'll move forward now. Greenearth now is in over 40 countries around the world. In the last month alone, Poland, the Philippines, and Switzerland have joined. We've hired on new master licensors for those countries. We're looking at the garment industry from the standpoint of those 5 characteristics that you need to look at as far as a solvent that'll do best for your business and a business model that works for you. And I'll be able to entertain questions later if somebody has questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for covering an enormous amount of subject in the time. Much appreciated.